as all of you know, we have a very special person in front of us.
Yeah, special.
To listen to his expert advice.
And this is education, and I guess that makes this special education.
Yeah, that's correct. So we have here Dr. Conrad Fischer.
Yes.
Medicine.
Correct.
Hospital Medical Center and award-winning medical educator, author of Master the Board series.
Yeah. And I'm special, and that makes this special education.
And the founder of MedQuest review series. So today we will talk about all the strategies you need for USMLE 2 and 3, and we will begin with step 1 right now. So what do you think, Dr. Fischer? Like, to prepare for step 1, now it's
oh no, I wouldn't do any prep. It's pass fail. It's like 50-50. You already know what the grade is going to be. You already know 50 chance. 50-50, it's pass or fail. Oh, hang on a second. Hello? Is that God? Oh, yes. What? Is a 50-50 chance I'm going to be alive or dead by tomorrow? Oh. Life is pass-fail? Well, that's actually the point. That just because it's pass-fail, you still have to pass. And now what we found is that when the test went pass-fail, is that people started worrying less about the test. And they go, well, the grade doesn't matter, so they didn't put in as much effort. Yeah, I feel reconnected.
We are back. I think so, yeah. I think we had some internet issue, but we are
No,
back.
I think it's mostly my emotions. My excess emotionality interfered with signal.
Maybe it's too strong.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'll get quiet. You still have the same single question bank over and over again is not going to get us where we need to go. Because you think the people at
yeah, I guess we have some strong energy here. Some strong
but
energy
not on
going
the internet.
Here. Yes. So yeah, because step 1 is pass fail, what matters now a lot more is the step 2 CK, right, Dr. Fischer?
100%. 100%. I wish that I could show you what I see in Aras, which is on my computer right here, or what I see here on folders.
And you can only take step 3 in the United States, and only after you get the ECFMG certificate.
Yeah, this is tremendously unfair, I think, because people, if you want to talk about equity, having things be equal across, I'd say, well, I want to provide opportunities for people from around the world. It's not the people from the rich countries and large that are coming in training.
That's right.
It tends to skew towards poorer countries.
Mm-hmm.
It's rather, what is the word when they one thing or actually do another? Hypocrisy. Hypocrisy. One C and an S. Why don't we go look it up? And that's hypocrisy. One C and an S. Why don't we go look it up? And that's where people talk.
There, you're back again. Yes. So
it was never that interesting anyway, because that was already a pass-fail exam.
Mm-hmm.
So step 2 is gone. There's one metric. Step 1 is pass. What do I think when they we're going to do holistic review when there's no step 1 grade and that's step 2 CS? I said, yes, it's holistic, more or less because the applicants are now in a deep hole. Trapped in the hole. That's what we're saying by holistic. So yeah, step 2 matters much more because you've got to have something that can distinguish people. Oh, you're supposed to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So as the board series expert, Dr. Fischer, what would you recommend? I know this really varies per person and how they study, but a lot of people ask on the registration, so how long should I take to prepare for it? What are the test taking strategies? What are the resources I should use? So those were the most commonly asked questions
Yes.
that we got. So
well, they're really hard questions because it depends who you are. For instance, if I said to you, how long do you have to run a marathon? Well, if it's me with a knee replacement, The answer is an infinite amount of time to prepare because I'll never be able to do it. For a healthy young person, say that they need 6 or 8 or 12 weeks to prepare if they're already a runner, if they're already used to running 5 miles. But if you're a professional athlete and you've run 5 marathons this year, then you actually don't really need much of any preparation time.
That's right.
The same way, I used to be a boxer. Took up boxing at the age of 40.
Okay.
And how long do you need to prepare for a fight? Well, it depends what you're starting from. Are you starting from a good base? Are you starting 6 weeks, 4 weeks? U.S. medical school, you usually get from the school, like for instance, where I'm at Turo, we give June, and they have to take their test by the end of June. And well, technically we don't give it to them. They do pay a lot of tuitions. But the thing is, tuition might be 6 months to 8 months, 9 months.
Especially since if you've graduated long time ago and you have to go back to the base.
For instance, the most important one for real is not to just do one question bank over and over. Look, I don't have a step 1 question bank. Doesn't matter to me personally. But you should do several of them so that you don't just think that all the questions really are placed in this one question bank. The second thing is at step 2 and step 3, at that level for that test, one of the biggest issues reading a book and jumping just to question bank. Because you read to learn something, then you use the question whether you learned it. For instance, do you look in the mirror first or do you get dressed first? Now, my answer for me may be different, but the answer is you're supposed to get dressed first, then see how you ultimately looked and assess it with the mirror. The mirror is like the question bank. You're supposed getting dressed and washing and brushing your teeth in the book. And so when I hear about people saying, well, we're going to just go to one electronic resource for that preparation, it is, I think, skipping a critical step.
I definitely agree. Yeah, because you want to have the information in you and the understanding before tackling all those things and really getting it and understanding it and using it to actions.
Yes.
Yeah. So so people are also asking for those who take assessments, for IMGs who are taking assessments and they stop at a certain level. What do you think is?
Well, I think then is to add a resource. Is you did UWorld, then you should go and do RX or Kaplan, or there's step 1. There's fewer question banks at step 2, but it's still the same idea to your resource. And for instance, even in books, for such a high stakes and critically important exam, I would prepare, go slower subjects, but read the same subject in multiple sources. For instance, how I became me was I didn't just say, well, I'm going to read through this one book. What I did is I said, let me take hemolysis, hemolytic anemias. And now I go, of course, back then there were bookstores, and I would go and read the same subject in 3 or 4 sources to see which one I like, which ones I like. But then I would go through read in 2 and 3 sources the same subject. And that me. You can become Conrad Fischer by going through. This has been a very hard thing for people to absorb. Because people have, well, a piano, so I did. Well, I played it. Oh, I went to learn how to play tennis. I played once. And this is just not to learn art or skill set.
Mm-hmm.
Take one small piece of the myocardial infarction, coagulation disorders, liver disease, and read in multiple sources.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes it may feel slower to people, but I guarantee you that it's more permanent in its effect.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with you, Fisher. Yes, I think definitely having all those comprehensive will equip you better and help you have a fuller understanding of each of the topics that commonly come out in the USMLE exams. So next question we're going to go to step 3. So how did you give in terms of preparing for CCS cases or the interactive version of the test?
Well, the computerized clinical case simulator is a CCS. It's unique to step 3. Not on anything that's there where any other test
Mm-hmm.
where you get history, physical, labs, but you can order tests, move the clock forward, and get the results of those tests. There's nothing else like that. You order tests and treatments. You order the CBC and the chemistries. You move the clock forward. You find the potassium is low, anemia. Then you must write new orders. And, well, the potassium was found out to be high. Now you must write the order for the zirconium. Then they want to watch you to see that you chemistry level to be sure that the zirconium corrected the potassium. Person brought to the room with shortness of breath. Order oxygen, get a blood gas or oximeter, get a X-ray. You order it, you move the clock forward. You get a chest X-ray result that shows a pneumothorax, and you move the clock. There's no other test like that. And so that's something where you have to go through case by case to know the timings. You see, step 2 and 3 actually have a smaller knowledge base than step 1.
Mm-hmm.
But step 2 and especially step 3 is very heavily weighted towards judgment of timing.
Mm-hmm.
What's first? What's next? What's next? Which is most important first?
Mm-hmm. Definitely for the cases, practice helps a lot, and just doing case after cases and knowing what to order. As Dr. Fisher mentioned, the order of things, which one to order first, what's priority at that moment when the patient is feeling such a symptom, and then move the time next, and then what to do next until the system says that your patient is feeling much better and
Yeah.
you're good.
Yes. So, there are practice CCS cases at some of the electronic mechanisms.
Mm-hmm.
There's practice CCS cases in my own books. And then USMLE itself, access to practice cases, then you'd be surprised at how many people walk in on test day and didn't do the practice cases that are actually at USMLE. It's like, if they have practice ones for you to work out, why didn't you do?
Yeah, exactly. There's also a question regarding is like for step 1 and step 2 to take one exam before the other. Step 2 CK first and then take step 1 after, if for instance they just came out of their clinical. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can take either step 1 or step 2 first. Doesn't matter. You have to have both step 1 and 2 passed in order to take step 3. Can't take step 3 without the first 2 steps.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And are there any recent changes that you know of regarding the exams?
I don't really think there's anything significant in terms of the style
Mm-hmm.
of the exam. I think that it's false when people think, well, the exam lags behind, the exam lags behind, the exam lags behind.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that's just not true to say, well, oxygen and water just got onto the exam. And so that's not true.
Uh-huh.
Right? So, for instance, COVID was on the exam within 6 months of it happening.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, because they want to see if people know what's going on with the world.
Hmm. Yeah, and yeah, which was surprising too that they were able to implement it really fast. But it's really helpful because it's what we need to know as people who are into medicine.
Well, it just did. It demonstrates the right attitude. The right attitude is to say, well, if they're testing it, if they're testing it, it must be important. Because the wrong attitude is to say, oh man, they're making me learn all this useless stuff. They're wasting my time. I could be out there playing Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto. I could be out there playing games,
Uh-huh.
and here they are making me learn about things like, now we have this vaccine against respiratory syncytial virus.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God, when do I have to learn that? They're supposed to be given to people at the age of 60. Yeah, that's true. Oh man, why do they make me learn that? Oh, hepatitis B screening guidelines.
Mhm.
Hep B screening guidelines just changed this year, well, technically now last year,
Mhm.
to universal screening for everybody above the age of 18. Oh man, now I need to learn this new thing. Oh, it's a drag. Or the fact that the chlamydia and gonorrhea urine test just became over the counter. You can go buy it in Amazon or at drugstores.
That I didn't know.
Just
Wow,
happened.
that's
Yes.
wow.
Okay, can have an over the counter. Now, you want to get okay?
Yeah.
You know what you can do? If you meet somebody new,
Mhm.
or you can go home and say, I got you something nice for Christmas. What?
Surprise!
Surprise! Chlamydia gonorrhea test.
You just gotta take a
Okay.
urine.
Oh, what do you get for the man who has everything? The home urine chlamydia and gonorrhea test.
Yeah.
That's it. So it's changed. And so there's a new monoclonal antibody for respiratory syncytial virus for children that if the mother didn't get the vaccine, the child is supposed to get.
It seems to have great results.
Nirsumab,
Yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
And so tirzepatide. Tirzepatide. Tirzepatide, now brand names are not on the exam, but some people know it just as Mounjaro.
Mhm.
I thought it was called Mounjaro for like the mountains, the highest mountain in
Uh-huh.
Africa, Kilimanjaro.
Uh-huh.
But we called the drug company and they said that's not why.
Uh-huh.
But this drug causes a 20% loss of weight. That's what people go to gastric surgery for. Well, tirzepatide is out for 3 years. That's not too new to be on the exam.
Mhm.
So people have to. Let's put it as an example of. Well, what am I putting in my? I'm actually preparing my next edition of the Step and Master Boards,
Mm.
and so that sort of thing is on my mind. It's on my mind to say, when does something go in?
Yeah.
And we go, when is the test for fructosamine? Fructosamine. By the way, a letter, fantastic to know all the new drugs. Comes out once a week or once every 2 weeks.
Oh,
Very
wow.
inexpensive. They don't take drug company advertisement, and they work only with the purity of the money from selling the newsletter. So it's very, very pure. So medical letter
Oh.
for learning the drugs, and a very simple thing where you get one thin thing in your mailbox every week or two, and you don't have to read the. People basically blah 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 blah.
Oh,
Here's
that's
the
nice.
answer, and so they're able to
Yes.
know. So there's no bias.
From the pharmacy.
These angiotensin receptor neprilysin inhibitors are $400 a month,
Wow.
and I always think it's a big conspiracy.
Mhm.
So you go and you say, well, do I have to know about fructosamine? Well, what's fructosamine? Fructosamine? You ever heard of that? Fructose? How long does it take to see a change in your hemoglobin A1C? The answer is 3 months.
3 months. Yeah.
You change someone's insulin, and 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago,
Mhm.
and you want to see if there's an improvement.
Mhm.
That's when you use fructosamine levels.
Oh.
So fructosamine levels
Mhm.
measure the effect on glucose
Mhm.
after only a few weeks.
Oh,
And
gotcha.
I predict that will be on this year's test.
Oh, that's gonna be amazing.
Yes. So in looking through what do, some things change. But you can say most of myocardial infarction management hasn't changed.
Mm.
It actually hasn't. The step 2 question is always the same. A person, the answer is to give dual antiplatelet therapy, beta blocker. Which of these lowers mortality the most? And the answer is angioplasty. When are thrombolytics the answer? Only when you can't get angioplasty. Up to how many hours after the onset of chest pain to do thrombolytics? In my own hospital, the residents won't use thrombolytics. It's 12 hours. So this is you take a single subject and let's say something like stroke. Will they ask you what's the most likely diagnosis possible? Will they ask you best initial CT? Probably not, because it's too easy. Most your test MRI? Probably not, because it's too easy. What will they want you to know about the stroke? The last couple of years, 2 platelet drugs for every stroke that comes in. It used to be 6 and 7 hours after the onset of a stroke. What do you do to manage the stroke? The answer is mechanical clot. There, in trying to predict, my job as a teacher for USMLE and Complex, my job in the courses is to get to remember, blah, 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 Dr. Fischer. Just give me, I'm sure you're very good and you want us to learn so much. But just tell me, what do you think the single question is? The most likely question to be, and I think the question to be asked for stroke is dual antiplatelet therapy and mechanical retrieval up for 24 hours. But what Sarang was modeling a second ago, go back to that so it doesn't get lost. These are the things you need to know. They're going to help people in the. These are the things we're going to need to know. And that's the right attitude. The wrong attitude is, this is too new. What are you making me learn? I don't want to do my homework.
Yeah, so I hope you guys will remember what Dr. Fischer just shared. It's very valuable information for us to become, amazing physicians in the future, because we have to take care of our patients, and that we want to be updated with all these updated guidelines, and also the medications that are coming are actually really great. And for the interest of time, maybe a last question. So someone's asking, how do they stay motivated through the prep season? Because there are people who failed once, they have some attempts, and then it can be discouraging, and they just want to know, how do I keep going? How do I stay motivated through challenging season?
Well, you can always say, I'm going to change my goals. You could always do that. Now, people get really offended when I say something like, you can decide to go to physician-assisted school or become a paramedic. And they get really offended. There's a very status and position and respect sensitive. So people are like, oh man, you're crapping on my dreams. You just stepped on my ego. Okay, so you don't want to do that. It's like, I must be a doctor. All right. Well, the way to stay motivated towards these things is to realize that people will live and die based on how much you know. And you also have to remember that if you don't know it, then if somebody else is making a mistake, you won't be able to catch it. So I had to review a case recently with hypertensive crisis. And whether you call it hypertensive crisis, emergency, urgency, malignant hypertension, it was hypertension with end organ damage, shortness of breath. And the initial doctor taking care of the patient did not know that nitroglycerin is not the best initial therapy for emergency hypertension emergency. It's Vitalol, or nicardipine, which is an intravenous calcium channel blocker. Neither of those drugs were started, and the blood pressure stayed high, and by the time the red broke and died. And so what people need to be able to connect, the synapse they need to be able to connect, is that what you're studying for the exam is not abstract bakwas, nonsense, bullshit. It's real. And the first doctor not knowing that really hurt that patient. Another example would be a patient came in with acute pulmonary edema. The acute pulmonary edema was in a person who had had a stent and supposed to be cured the heart disease, but the troponin is off the charts high. And so there's a question in my question bank that says 60-year-old man with a history of coronary disease, but coronary disease has been fully treated on dual antiplatelet therapy, on beta blockers, on statin, comes with acute pulmonary edema of sudden onset, even though he's been compliant with medications. Troponins are very high. X-ray shows pulmonary edema. What is the next step in the management of this patient? The wrong answer would be BiPAP machine. The wrong answer would be cardiac monitoring. The wrong answers would be consult cardiology, consult neurology, because there was some renal failure too. The right answer was intravenous Lasix, intravenous furosemide. Now that's not a question from my question. It's something that I saw happen. And the people who were managing it didn't understand that what you will see as a USMLE question today, you're going to see that in a person. For you, I saw that in a real person, I'd get it. And so the patient got BiPAP, monitoring, cardiology, and consulted nephrology, and no furosemide, no Lasix. And the person died. So over and over and over again, I see harm to human beings. There's something straight out of a USMLE course. And so when I was meeting with the residents about it, I said, doctor, if the patient had 3 slides from my step 2 class, he would have been able to take care of the patient better. Consult cardiology, consult nephrology, BiPAP machine. The patient vomited in the BiPAP machine and aspirated.
Oh my God.
So that's how to be motivated, is to borrow my experience of being able to say, no, it really matters. People are going to live and die based on what you know or don't know. Wow. Okay? So that's why I'm so emotional, so motivated on these things, because I have seen the harm that happens to people. And it hurts me. It hurt me, really. It hurt me to say that something that's right out of that 2 book,
it could have been done.
That when I make new videos, I am thinking of that case and the person, the real human being, when I make the videos. I try to have that energy. Okay?
Oh, it's amazing. I think it's something important to remember, like why we go into medicine to begin with. We, of course, everyone has their personal reasons, but I can totally relate with what you share, because I used to study thinking like these little things will be helping me help other people, helping me save lives in the future.
That's
so
right.
I got to get it right, because if I wrong, it could all go wrong.
Correct. And then you're connected with grace. Sufis say invisible rain. invisible rain, and you become irrigated and filled. Rumi says, "Through you, all opposites unite. All that is profane becomes sacred again." And that's how you stay connected. Because if you can see your study of medicine also as your spiritual practice, in Buddhism, the vows that they say, at least in the Zen center, okay, is the Dharma way. In other words, the teachings of the Dharma, the Buddha way. The Dharma way is inexhaustible. I vow to master it. Sentient beings, beings that have feelings, are innumerable. I vow to save. Desires are numberless. I vow to master them. So straight on as a spiritual practice. Desires are numberless. I vow to master them. Sentient beings, human beings, and animals are numberless. I vow to save them. The Dharma way is inexhaustible. Man, dude, Dr. Fischer, your videos, man, that's like 40 hours in the step 2 videos, 60 hours in the step 3 videos. 4 weeks for a step 2 class in June. The Buddha way, the Conrad way is inexhaustible. Yes. I vow to attain it. So it struck me very much when I was in a Zen center a couple of weeks ago, and all the Buddhists were chanting. That was their Buddhist chant. And so there it is. Take your pick. Okay.
Yeah. So we heard so much valuable information through our expert, Dr. Fischer, today. And before we end everything, I just want to share with you guys that there will be actually a Cramathon event through MedQuest. And I actually picked it out for one. It's actually upcoming. It happened January 28th, 2024. So all the links to these events and these courses are actually in the description of this video. So you guys can go ahead, and if you're preparing for a step 1 exam right now, June, you will benefit very much from this course that Dr. Conrad will be holding. So that's for step 1. And if you are preparing for step 2,
back against the darkness,
there's another one for you as well. There's also step 2 Cramathon coming up in February 25. So if your step 2 is coming up and you want to cram all those review things in your mind before your exam, definitely highly recommend this course. And if you're done with step 1, it's 2-day course. 2-day course is a 2-day series, and it's gonna February 3 to 2024. So all of these links in the description of this video. So make sure to site. And thank you so much for your valuable time today.
You're welcome.
For sharing your knowledge with us.
Happy to be here.
Advice. It's very helpful, and we wish everyone here with us today will be an amazing facility.
And you can hear where it says welcome.
A colorful one.
Yes.
So bye, everybody, and bye.
See you next time when the internet works.
Yes.